Michael worked as a business executive for a medical equipment manufacturing company and often found himself on business trips. On this particular occasion, he was sent to a city in Europe. Michael's assignment was to meet with clients at a major conference held in the city. Upon his arrival in that city, he discovered that due to a blunder by his colleague, the hotel reservation dates had been mixed up, and most of the hotels near the conference venue were fully booked. After some searching, he finally settled for an old little hotel, even though its exterior seemed a bit outdated. With no other options, he checked in. The hotel was situated in a bustling neighborhood surrounded by various local restaurants and cafes, all wafting tantalizing scents of delectable cuisine. As Michael stepped into the hotel, an unexplainable sense of unease washed over him, as if there was an enigmatic aura in the air. However, he attributed this feeling to exhaustion and didn't dwell on it much. After swiftly completing the check-in process, he made his way to his room, which, he noted, was not particularly spacious. Given his early morning client meetings the next day, he quickly freshened up and settled in for some rest. Nevertheless, the tranquility of the late night was abruptly interrupted by a persistent knocking at his door. Still groggy from sleep, he sat up and inquired, "Who's knocking?" Acting on instinct, he moved toward the door and opened it. But, to his surprise, the hallway was empty, and nothing but silence greeted him. Glancing at his watch, he realized it was precisely 2 a.m. Perhaps because he had just awakened, he suspected it was a hallucination, so he closed the door and attempted to return to sleep. However, the knocking resumed shortly after, and this time, he was fully awake. Moving quickly, he approached the door, but as he drew nearer, the knocking abruptly ceased. He opened the door, but the hallway remained eerily deserted. Confused and unsettled, he retreated to his room and placed a call to the front desk. The front desk staff expressed their apologies for the disruption, but found no record of anyone entering or exiting the hotel during those early morning hours. Frustrated, Michael reluctantly hung up the phone. Just as he believed the ordeal was over, the knocking returned once more. This time, he chose not to open the door, and instead immediately called the front desk. Strangely, as the staff answered his call, the knocking mysteriously ceased. They confirmed through surveillance cameras that no one had been outside Michael's door. Following that, the knocking did not recur that night, but Michael found sleep elusive. The next morning, Michael went to the front desk to inquire about the situation. The staff and manager appeared hesitant to provide any valuable information. However, as he left the hotel to make his way to the conference venue, he happened to cross paths with a housekeeper who worked on the same floor. The housekeeper discreetly shared with Michael that a few years prior, the hotel had experienced a devastating fire. While most guests were successfully evacuated, tragically, some lost their lives. One of those guests had stayed in Michael's current room, and he had been unable to open the door, possibly due to the hangover or other reasons. And it wasn't until the fire was in full force that he heard the alarm. Firefighters discovered his lifeless body at the door. Upon learning the full story, Michael became even more unnerved. He began to wonder if the knocking he had heard in the early morning hours had actually come from outside the door. After he concluded his meetings that day, he checked out of the hotel and was fortunate to find another nearby hotel. However, his trip didn't proceed as planned, as this experience made it challenging for him to sleep, and it hindered his ability to fully concentrate on his work during the day. The mysterious knocking sound remained an unsolved enigma in his mind, leaving an indelible memory of this eerie encounter. This is a story of my friend, Michael, an encounter that remains vivid in his memory. It all unfolded on an unusual evening. Several years ago, Michael and a group of friends embarked on a holiday trip to Thailand. Thailand had always been a popular traveling destination, and Bangkok, the dynamic capital, was a crucial stop for any traveler exploring the country. They checked into a luxurious 4-star hotel in the heart of Bangkok, complete with a third-floor restaurant. The next day, they decided to dine together there. Michael opted for a window-side seat, providing him with a view of the outdoor balcony. On that balcony, he observed 2 children, a boy and a girl of elementary school age, engaged in playful activities. The window only reached up to chest height, allowing him to see only their heads. Initially, he paid little attention, assuming they were children of other hotel guests. Given that the hotel primarily hosted families from the United States, Europe, and Australia, children playing around seemed entirely normal. After dinner, Michael contemplated stepping onto the balcony for a smoke. Suddenly, he realized something peculiar. There should have been a door leading to the balcony outside the room, yet there wasn't. He opened the window and realized their floor didn't have a balcony at all. Inquiring with his friends inside the room about the kids, all of them unanimously denied any such sight. That evening, an unease settled over Michael. Even though he was in the company of friends, he seemed the only one who had noticed these eerie occurrences. Before long, stranger things began happening. Upon returning to his room late at night and preparing for bed, the sound of the door handle clicking, as if someone were trying to enter the room, reached his ears. He mustered the courage to approach the door, shouting at the supposed intruder, but received no response. Cautiously, he cracked the door open, peering into the corridor, but found no one. So, he returned to bed, ready to settle in for the night. As he teetered on the brink of sleep, the door handle clicked once again. Despite his unease, he believed it might be one of his friends from the neighboring room playing a prank. The door handle clicked every 5-10 minutes a few more times. He couldn't be bothered to answer it anymore. However, the very last time the door handle clicked, Michael, consumed by anger, flung the door open, only to discover a short, housekeeper-looking man standing in the hallway, facing away from him with his head down. Michael yelled, "What are you doing here? You've been fiddling with my door, keeping me up all night." The guy standing motionless in the corridor seemed to acknowledge Michael's complaints, but remained silent. Without warning, the man sprinted away, and Michael, determined to confront him, gave chase. Strangely, no matter how hard he ran, the distance between them remained constant, as if it were an impossible gap to bridge. The chase led them to a staircase, where the housekeeper, astonishingly, walked straight through the locked door leading to the rooftop escape. Michael was left in shock, unable to believe what he had just witnessed. Trembling with fear, he turned and sprinted back downstairs, constantly looking over his shoulder, worried that something or someone might be pursuing him. Seeking refuge, Michael knocked on the door of his friend's room, gasping for breath as he recounted the entire ordeal. However, his friends couldn't bring themselves to believe his story, and even considered the possibility that he might have had too much to drink. The next morning, Michael, resolute in his conviction, headed to the hotel's front desk. Using the simplest English he could muster, he recounted the previous night's events in great detail to the hotel staff and manager. Unsurprisingly, the hotel staff remained skeptical, but under Michael's insistence, they reviewed the security footage from the previous night. To their astonishment, all they could find in the recordings was Michael himself, passing by the camera with no signs of anyone else. Despite the lack of evidence on the tape, Michael remained steadfast in his belief that he hadn't imagined the strange occurrences. Moreover, the memory of the 2 children he saw playing outside the window continued to raise questions about hidden secrets within the hotel. Fortunately, the following day they departed from Bangkok and headed to their next destination, Pattaya. Although many years have passed since that night, Michael still feels a shiver of fear when recalling the experience. Sometimes he even wonders what would have happened if he had stood up when he saw the 2 kids or dared to open the door to see what lay behind it.